2, 1. Welcome back to the For Culture podcast. As always, I'm Ross Cooper.
I'm Jake Thomas.
And I'm Vanessa Brooks.
And today we are joined by Miss
Samantha Johnson.
Sam, thanks for being with us today. All right, first story of the day is we're in preparations for the Miss Ball State. Is it now? It's not. It's just called Miss Ball State. It's not like the Miss Ball State pageant or anything, right?
Correct. The official title, I guess, if you will, is the Miss Ball State University pageant of 2018.
Perfect. And when is that?
It's coming up in January. The pageant's always held the Sunday before Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That way, families can come in and they don't have to worry about work the next day.
Perfect. Okay, now, and the cool thing is you are the defending champion. Am I right?
If you will, yes. I've had the honor of serving as Miss Ball State University 2017 this year. It's been incredible. It's been once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Now, did you compete all 4 years you've been here or just last year?
I did not actually. So I did pageants when I was younger, just kind of growing up, and I didn't do them for the trophies or for the crowns. I just did it as something kind of fun. And then I took a few years off, but then when I came to Ball State, I heard about the Miss Ball State pageant, and I didn't compete in the past 3 years. I just kind of went as a fan and as a spectator, but then this year decided to compete kind of as one last hurrah to represent the university and to kind of give back to the university that's given me so much. So I competed in January and was lucky enough to take home the title.
That's really cool. Like, what were you surprised when they were like, Samantha Johnson?
I was actually, because like I said, I had done pageants in the past, but the cool thing about Miss Ball State is it's a local pageant in the Miss America organization.
Right.
And that was my first time competing in a pageant that was tied to the Miss America organization. And I was lucky enough to meet girls at that pageant that day who had already competed in that track.
Right.
And so coming in as the newbie, if you will, it was a little nerve-wracking, and I wasn't sure I was going to take home the crown, but I was lucky enough to have done so.
Well, yeah. Guys, do you have any questions for Samantha on that?
So, at what moment did you realize I want to finally do Miss Ball State when you were a junior?
Sure. So I actually had the privilege of serving as Ball State's homecoming queen last fall. And so having that opportunity, you know, homecoming week is full of events, but once that week's over, your role as homecoming queen is kind of done. And so once that was over, I kind of thought, well, this was a lot of fun. I want to do this again. I want another opportunity to represent Ball State. And so that was back in October of last year. So then coming into January of this year, I thought, why not? Let's just try it out.
And then when does all of this preparation start and the registration?
Sure. Registration is open right now. Girls can go online if they literally just Google search Miss Ball State pageant. It'll definitely come up. Also available on the Miss Indiana website. But it kind of depends on the girl, kind of depends on the woman. A lot of people start months in advance. Whenever I competed, I kind of started, I would say probably back in September or October, kind of leading up to that. And then it kind of goes full force November and December
Right.
with the planning and the practices and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of elements that go into it. So it kind of depends on how long you think you need to prepare.
What was like the hardest, or not the hardest, like what was the most like nerve-wracking portion of your prep?
Sure.
Or like what were you most worried about like when you were going to get on stage? Like what was like the thing like I hope this goes well tonight?
Yeah, this is going to sound kind of silly, but the part that was the most nerve-wracking for me was also the most exciting part, and that was the on-stage question. A lot of times it gets a bad rep in the pageant world because girls don't know how to answer and they look silly on stage, but I kind of have this weird love for public speaking. So going up there on the stage that day, knowing that the on-stage question was one of the most weighted parts of the competition, it could be about anything from Donald Trump to sexual assaults to my role in the media. It could be about anything. So knowing those two things, but also knowing my love for public speaking, I went up there that day a little nervous, but as soon as they asked me the question, I was set, I was ready, and it was a lot of fun.
What was your question, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. It had something to do, my personal platform is women's health and fitness. So it came along the lines of body image and how do you portray your body image and things like that. So knowing that, you know, you are who you are and that's perfectly fine, accepting the way you look, accepting the way that you live, and kind of portraying your best self, if you will.
So I'm not too familiar with the event, but do you guys do like a talent portion, a swimsuit? Like what exact ones do they do?
Sure. So like I said, it's a part of the Miss America organization, so it's very similar to the way that the Miss America pageant works. So we come out and we do our opening number. From there, we do go into, just like you mentioned, we have a talent portion, we have a swimsuit portion, and then we do the evening gown. And then from there, at the very end is when we do those on-stage questions, like I was mentioning. And then from there, depending on how many girls are in the pageant, the top 5 or the top 3 or the court is announced after that.
What was your talent?
My talent was kind of different. I was not blessed with the lungs of a singer or anything like that. So I actually did a jump rope routine. Taking my platform of women's health and fitness, I love to work out, and jump roping has always just been kind of part of my workout. So from there, I did that, took that aspect of it, also tied it into my love for dance that I had when I was younger, put the two together and came up with kind of a jump rope routine. I did it to the song Footloose, and it was really fun and really energetic, and I think the crowd liked it.
Yeah, it's something different, so I'm sure that definitely got the judge's attention.
Yeah.
I did a pageant once in high school, and they literally told me that I looked like I didn't belong there.
Oh,
Like they said,
Wait, why?
'cause it was
What?
it was a high school pageant, and like they were like, yeah, like you just look like you should be at like something higher level than this, blah blah blah.
Oh,
So I
okay.
didn't get anything, and it wasn't my fault. Like the other girls, like were doing their own hair and whatnot, and I had like a hairstylist, a makeup artist, whatnot. And so I'm like, I'm sorry that I'm extra, but like that doesn't mean like
Well,
I can't place or anything. And like Sam said, like I try to do something different because I cannot sing. I don't have a specific talent, never danced, nothing. So actually, like my family, we rescue a lot of dogs. So at the time, I had 8 dogs, and one of my dogs, who I still have, Coco, she was super shy and everything. But she was like 3 years old when we got her, and now she's 13. She had to be probably like 7 or 8, and I trained her to do like every trick in the book, go through like hoops and whatnot. And so that was my talent, like dog training on stage and whatnot. And they didn't find that entertaining. They picked a girl to play the flute. Now, granted, she was great, but I just was like, wow.
something different, something
Mhm.
unique. Yeah.
Sounds like you're holding a little bit of
I am.
bitterness.
I am
still.
Still to this
It's
day.
okay. Sam, when you talked about how you did them when you were younger, what did you think of the show Toddlers and Tiaras?
My mom and I still watch that, and we kind of joke, that maybe someday when I grow up, I'm gonna be that
Right.
mom.
I mean, are some of the moms that like in your experience? Do you see some of the moms like that intense about it and stuff, or like the girls like that crazy?
I would say not
Not-
particularly with the Miss America organization.
Okay.
There's a lot more to Miss America than just the pretty looks and
Right.
the shiny crowns. But granted, in other tracks and other organizations, I have seen that. Sometimes the moms are more into it than the girls are, but not my experience with the Miss America organization.
Well, that's a good thing. So then, when you took the Miss Ball State title, you got to compete in the Miss Indiana pageant as well, right?
I did.
What was that like?
That was a whole week in the summer with nothing but service and scholarship and promoting well-being, and it was without a doubt the best week of my year. There were 30 odd number of us that were
Mhm.
down there competing for the Miss Crown, but then we also have outstanding teams, so young girls from the community who are also thriving in their communities were there representing Indiana as well. So I obviously didn't take home the title of Miss Indiana, so it could have turned out a little bit better, I think.
Right.
But going in as my first year, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Like
Right.
I mentioned, there's girls who have been competing in the Miss America organization since they were 12 or 13. So coming in, as a 21-year-old for the first time, I had a great experience, and I met girls that will be my friends for the rest of my life.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that too. We actually have a mutual friend in that organization because we both know Miss America or Miss Indiana. Sorry, Haley Begay.
Yeah.
She graduated from my high school 2 years after I did, and we were in plays and stuff together. She's a super sweetheart.
She is.
Like, wow.
Yeah. And we were lucky enough to share a dressing room during the whole week of Miss Indiana. So
Yeah.
Haley and I became very close. And then post Miss Indiana, she's gone through a lot of struggles with her family.
Yeah, her mom,
Her mom being diagnosed with some sort of brain
It's a brain
cancer.
tumor, yeah.
Mhm.
which they weren't.
So,
They're keeping that under wraps as best they can because my brother and her are pretty good friends and within the community and stuff. So they're letting the community know one thing and then they're letting the closer people know the other. So they're kind of keeping it pretty under lock and key.
yeah. But it's been nice as, Miss America sisters to come together and to support her.
Mhm.
And when she went to Miss America and when her mom was there, we were all there supporting her. So that's one thing I've loved about this year is that you would think there'd be a little bit of cattiness and almost a little bit of drama, but not with these girls. It's been amazing.
Well, that's always a good thing.
As Miss America, not Miss America, Miss Ball State gets closer, what advice do you have for those running and those that might be on the edge of not participating in the competition?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, that was my first time competing in Miss Ball State. And luckily it worked out in my favor. But I would just say if there's any young women out there who are considering it, just do it. Just try it. Just come out. That day, there were only 5 of us who actually competed. But those 5 girls, we are good friends. I see them around on campus, and we still talk about how fun that day was. So if nothing else, just come out for the experience and come out for the friendships that you'll make. As far as advice, I would just say give it your all. Those judges who are sitting across from you on that stage, they're not looking for the one who's the prettiest. They're not looking for the one who has the prettiest dress or the best body. They're looking for the girl who's going to represent Ball State University, who's going to give back to her community, and who is just confident in herself to be confident in front of other people as well.
And then does the title Miss Ball State come with any perks that you've noticed?
It does. It does. I would say my favorite part is just being able to be almost a face of Ball State, if you will. This year I've been able to go to so many events that I had never even heard of, to be honest. And this year I've been able to represent Ball State at those events, whether that be on-campus events or events in the Muncie community, even down in Indianapolis. So just being able to travel and kind of be a spokesperson for the university has been a lot of fun. Plus the shining crown at Sashar and all that.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for that one. Now, will you? You'll go back for the show in January, right? To kind of pass on the torch, right?
Yes, I will.
Yeah. What do you think that moment will be like for you?
It'll be bittersweet.
Yeah.
I'm at the age where I could compete again in the Miss America organization.
Mhm.
I technically have 3 years left if I want to, but I also know I'm at that point in my life where I'm graduating,
Right.
I'm getting a job, I'm
Mhm.
moving on to adult things, and so I realize that I can't, if you will, be a princess my whole life. So knowing that this might potentially be my last title in the Miss America organization, it's bittersweet.
Mhm.
It's been a lot of fun, but I also know that it's someone else's turn.
Right. Do you think would there be any factor that would make you want to compete again in another, like just do it one more time somewhere else?
Yeah.
You think so?
I would say the women, 100% the
Yeah.
women. They have my back no matter what, and it's such a strong sisterhood, and that's one thing that we love to promote. And so I think if anything, those girls are going to draw me back into the organization.
Do you think it might happen?
I think it might.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I need to take this summer and the next coming year to kind of establish myself in my career, but
Right.
maybe after that, we'll see.
Cool. I kind of hope it would. It'd be cool because you can see her on TV and go, "Hey, I knew her when."
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
Well, Sam, you're not only Miss Ball State, but you're also a very talented sports reporter here at Ball State with Daily News and all of that. A couple of cool, interesting stories here. Jake, toss it to the home for the holiday story we wanted to talk about today.
Well, this is sports for the non-football fan here. As many of us know, 3 UCLA players were charged with shoplifting in China when they had an exhibition match against Georgia Tech, and they were arrested and placed on house arrest. And then luckily, President Trump was able to negotiate with the Chinese president and get them home a week later. But now we have a Ball State alumnus who played football for us that has been detained in China for 14 months, named Wendell Brown, and he has still yet to have any negotiations been set on his behalf to the Chinese government. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this article I think was done by Kara, one of our
Mhm.
fellow reporters here. She did a great article in the Daily News about this. You know, it's sad. It's sad. I think the circumstances, especially coming after watching the UCLA players come home and
Yep.
watching Donald Trump kind of help them and get them back to the United States, knowing that we have a fellow Cardinal who's stuck over there for, granted, different reasons, but still, if it were to happen in the United States, it wouldn't be nearly as severe.
No.
So it's sad when you read this article to hear the statements from his mom about how desperate she is to have him home for the holidays, and knowing that that might not be a possibility.
Was it just did he just like hit somebody, or was it like an actual, like a more of an altercation than like one and done kind of thing?
To give a little background from Kara's report, Wendell Brown was a former linebacker at Ball State, and he's now 30, so he was 29 at the time. He got into a bar fight in September 16th. He was a football coach there, and he was at a party, and he was arrested for hitting a man and caused him to lose an eye. And Wendell was claiming that it was self-defense, and he's been sent to jail and has been there ever since.
Interesting. Well, I don't know. So that's kind of you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because it's like he did something obviously against the law, but he's also an American citizen still. So there should be some form of negotiation going on between us and them to get it figured out to get him home, right?
Yeah, and that goes back to the fact, too, that he mentions it's self-defense.
Yeah.
So at that point, where's the line?
Yeah,
and where
exactly.
do we draw that line, and how do we get him back to the United States? We don't know.
And then why he's still there, and the UCLA players were there for how long? They weren't even there a week, right? Like,
Yeah,
it was
it was-
short.
Certainly not 14
No,
months.
no, exactly. So, and that's another thing. That's kind of a question I'd like to get answered is, how do you get 3 kids compared to just one guy home faster?
Well, LiAngelo Ball was definitely the highlighted name because
Right.
of his brother, who was in the NBA, as well as his father, who has been well known throughout the media for
Making
various reasons.
making a out of
So,
himself.
That definitely influenced their decisions since they are a high-profile team. And even though Wendell's unfortunately thrown under the rug, he has reached out to multiple members of Congress, and they have not responded to him, unfortunately. And the Daily News also tried to reach out to Representative John Conyers, and he has not commented or reached back out to us.
That's sad. Like that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Vanessa, yeah, you.
I mean, I think point blank, this goes back to the whole idea if you're not like huge in the media world, if you're not a quote unquote somebody, like you're gonna be just left. I think it's crazy. Like, I don't know, it's like to say, like with the whole Chris Brown and Rihanna incident, like that happens all the time. But because it's Chris Brown and Rihanna, it's so publicized. Like, it's just, I don't know. I hate that. I feel like everybody is important and is somebody. So this is just sad that, you know, he's not going to be home with his family and he's stuck in another country, but it doesn't seem like, you know, his mom can get the help that she really needs.
Yeah. Well, it's sad because he's one of us. He's an American citizen. Like you don't want to see like we all have our differences or whatever, but like you don't want to see someone, you know, at the whims of a foreign power or whatever because he made one not even really a mistake. He was in self-defense. So I hopefully that will get resolved soon, and we'll keep people updated on that as well. And then with that we're going to transfer a little bit over to another thing we have Samantha here for is she again talked about reporting and that the Ball State football. What happened this season? It was I can't really find the right word, but it was an interesting. I was gonna say interesting, but
rough.
Yeah, that too.
You know, I can't speak on behalf of Coach New, and I can't speak on behalf of the team, but just from my own personal observations, I think things kind of took a turn when we were plagued with all the injuries. You can go back and look at the stats, and there were only a few people who started that very first game who finished the season, which is incredible. And the number of freshmen that played and the number of red shirts that were able to play this year. Granted, a lot of them had really great years, but the only reason they had those great years were because we had so many injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was something that Ball State definitely had to deal with at first that kind of, I don't want to say threw them off, but there was definitely a bump in the road that we had to overcome. And the fact that the injuries kept happening was something that definitely was not great.
Well, we ended up on we had 4 quarterbacks by the end of the season, right? And like it was a true freshman at the end, pretty much.
Yeah, Drew Plitt came in and, you know, obviously he might not have even expected to play this year, but he came in and he did a great job for what he had to kind of wrap up the season. So, but again, he wouldn't be in that situation if it weren't for all the injuries.
Right. What do you think for next season? Like, if we can get if the Cardinals can stay healthy, and you know more of news recruits can come in, do you think we can expect a better season with the next couple of seasons, with the next couple of years?
Absolutely. I mentioned those young guys. You know, we had freshmen this year who were breaking 1,000 rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's only the second one in Cardinal history, basically, to do so.
Right.
And so they've got great players that are coming through the line. It's just going to take a little bit more coaching. Again, like you mentioned, staying healthy.
Yeah.
Staying on the field is key. So I think the young guys will definitely be able to carry the team next year.
Yeah, that's the thing I love about football too is you can have a year like the Cardinals have had this year, and the next year you can turn it around. Just 1 year. People don't understand one off season can make a huge difference in strength. Because with a freshman, they're still growing and like getting stronger, faster. And if they're doing that already, imagine what they can do with the next 3-4 years. Like, I think that's what I love about the game itself. Mm-hmm. And then what I thought was kind of interesting and kind of frustrating is some people were already calling for New's job already. He's only been here for 2 seasons. Like, you can't have that argument yet unless it's been like 4 and it's like, okay, we're not winning anything. Yeah. But I think, and the thing is, he hasn't gotten to use his recruits just yet. He still has the 3 or 4 years ahead of him to play with. So. Yeah,
and you know, people will name names left and right until they're happy with the season. But
exactly.
Like I said, you can't blame Coach New for the injuries, or you can't blame Coach New for, you know, touchdowns that were given up or whatever it may be. So Coach New obviously has to take the blame as the head ball coach, but you know, a lot of the things that happened this year were not his fault.
No, not at all. I think he did well with what he had, and I think he's going to do well in the next couple of years. I will say though, he's a very likable guy, and that's why like you're kind of pulling for him too, because he's a very personable guy as well as because you've had interactions with him, right?
Yeah, Coach New is a great guy, especially playing here at Ball State and now kind of making the full circle to come back and coach
Mhm.
here. You can tell just by talking to him the level of dedication he has
Yep.
for this program and for this school.
Yep.
And so he'll be excited to take on next year.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we won't be here for that. Well, actually, Vanessa, you will be, so you can enjoy it. So you can tell us when we're all doing our thing how great the atmosphere is on campus with the Ball State Cardinals football. And I think we'll real quick transition to that. I think the Cardinals basketball season should be. I think we're gonna have a good season too. How you're gonna cover a lot of basketball this season?
Yeah, you know what? I am working on a story next week for the women's basketball team. They're 6-0, and they're taking on Purdue at Purdue next Monday night. So they're going to do great. I think
Mhm.
the head coach and some of the coaching staff were talking about. They're trying to ignore the fact that they're 6-0 and they're
Right.
just playing like normal. But they're doing very, very well on the court.
You let people like us worry about 6-0. You don't worry about 6-0
Right.
as you're playing. What do you think about the men's team this year? Predictions for the
Well,
rest of the way out.
Yeah, I would say also that I see them having success this year too,
Mhm.
especially the fact that they have taken on and are planning to take on 4 teams that have made it to the Final Four in the past. That's pretty incredible that we have such big competitors. So their schedule is definitely a little heavy, but I think it'll be cool to see the outcome.
I think once we hit the MAC tournament, I think that'll really show where we are. I always, every year, I'm like, I just want a team to like be in consideration to make the to make the
Yeah,
bracket. Like
yeah.
I mean, I think the women definitely that'd be amazing. So I think there's a chance there too. I think there's a chance for both. So I think if we could leave the seniors and Vanessa obviously can get it 2 years in a row, but we'll see what happens. All right, we're gonna wrap things up here real quick with your quick weather forecast. Next few days looking like temps in the mid 50s, and on Monday we're gonna reach actually in the lower 60s. But then a cold front will be moving in with temps dropping to the mid 40s, and throughout the rest of next week, temps dropping to the lower 30s. So it'll actually start feeling a little bit like the Christmas season, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited about. Anybody else?
No.
No.
I was walking my dog this morning and there was frost on the ground. That is not okay. Her little paws are freezing. Not good.
I think it's okay. It gets you in the spirit of the season. Am I
That
wrong?
means it's time to go home, not worry about classes.
Yes.
Sleep in, no worries.
Exactly. All right. That's going to do it for us today with the For Culture podcast. I'm Ross Cooper.
I'm Jake Thomas.
And I'm Vanessa Brooks.
And I'm Samantha Johnson.
Sam, thank you so much for joining us. We will talk to you next week.